He's back again. He steps up. He's hit. He stumbles. He is throwing it deep for the end zone, and it is batted around and incomplete. And the game is over.
Ooh, had the back door. Oh, Simmons threw it in reverse. Oh my God! Deep to right field, way up there and way out of here. Second and one. Here's Hughes giving it across. Oh, what a save!
Welcome back to the Broad Street Benchwarmers podcast, presented to you by Hungry Dog Sportsbook. We're gonna keep showing it off, trying to put out as much content as I say every time, but
we haven't every time we start putting out more content. I don't think we've put anything on there. But
we're working on it. It's getting
we are saying we are working on it.
We are committed to working on it. But obviously, with me is Ethan, as always. We just got back from Blazers-Grizzlies.
Yeah, that was. As someone who had to watch all the Sixers games, it's probably the best game I've seen so far in the
honestly.
bubble.
And I mean, I said this was going to be a blowout. I did. I said, Memphis does not have the firepower without Jaren Jackson to compete with this Portland team. And, I mean, credit to John Morant to get right into it. This team fought.
Mm-hmm.
Ja had 35 and 8. Dylan Brooks, who we have constantly made fun of for, being as inconsistent he is, had 20, couple clutch threes. Valanciunas, who, I've always viewed as a B-grade center, had 22 on Yusuf Nurkic. And so, credit to them, even with the Trailblazers getting the win and moving on to face the Lakers. I think we should start with the Grizzlies and how they performed.
Yeah, obviously they didn't win this game, which is what everybody's going to think about. But I'm very confident in the Grizzlies moving forward because even though the West is so stacked now, like imagine that this team is not even making the playoffs when Orlando is in the East and Brooklyn.
Exactly.
But I think Ja had an amazing game. He actually made some threes, which I was surprised by because that's probably one of the weaker parts of his game.
It is, and if he can get that consistent jumper, that's beyond special. Yeah. That is an All-NBA caliber player with the way he can finish already on the offensive end.
Yeah, we'll talk about his defense in a second, but I don't know. His shiftiness and his explosiveness on the offensive side is just next level. And yeah, as we said, Dylan Brooks, he hit that clutch three with 15-ish seconds, near the end of the game to get him within three.
I legitimately walked out of the room. I was done. Yeah. I thought it was over. And he hit that. I don't know, man. That could be a solid piece for them for the future.
Yeah.
If Dylan Brooks, I know he hasn't been the most efficient shooter this season, but he still put up numbers this season. So if he can complement Ja like that, that's another good piece for the future.
And we do have to stress the importance of Jaren Jackson, how valuable he is, because honestly, with how Whiteside performed and with them not having Zach Collins, then honestly this game could have very well went to Memphis, because even though that does mean Ja got a lot more touches, then I think just the two-way sort of skill set of Jackson is very valuable, considering they had to play Grayson Allen for a lot of the game and the legend Anthony Tolliver and
and his ability to stretch the floor.
I think I don't know if he fouled out, but when they put Anthony Tolliver in for Valanciunas, I'm pretty sure he fouled out. But I was just like,
Yeah.
is this actually what's going on?
Anthony
I mean, I saw him hit like
Tolliver had a great game though.
he hit I know he hit
Yeah.
a 3 or 2.
Yeah.
But
He was not great on the defensive end in the
Yeah.
fouling column, but for a 10-day guy, Anthony Tolliver,
yeah.
that's something.
And again, Valanciunas had a good game, even though at the end he kind of screwed them out of, I guess, some momentum when he had the ball out of bounds when it looked like it went off Nurkic, but he was the only guy who said, like, don't challenge it because he knew that he, whatever, was responsible. But I don't know. The future for Memphis is bright. I think that, they're definitely a better team than New Orleans at this moment, especially. I mean, I'm not too keen on their coaching, but considering that there is no coach to compete with,
Right? We'll get into that later.
Yeah. Then, I mean, I think they're a much more disciplined team, and the Blazers. I guess we're going with them now.
Mm-hmm.
Give all the credit in the world to Dame, and especially CJ and Nurkic and Melo. Everybody had a great game.
Everybody performed, exactly. Yeah. I mean, this was not – I thought this was going to be a 40-point Damian Lillard game. The tear he has been on the past couple of months. We look at, the 50 3 nights ago against us. We look at the 61, obviously, against Dallas is the one you're going to look at. But this was, I mean – when he was struggling in the first half, he shot, I think he was 3 of 8 from the field in the first half. CJ managed to take over on the offensive end. Nurkic was bullying in the post. And Carmelo Anthony, a guy, like we said last week, who had been consistently called by the media, washed, on a minimum deal, an NBA legend, this looked like prime Melo, not even OKC Melo, This looked like prime Melo. And so, I mean, I think this is a team definitely that can take it to the Los Angeles Lakers. I think there are going to be some definite tough matchups, especially at the guard positions for that Laker team, considering they're going to have to be starting Caruso and Rondo. And to be honest, that might be one of my, if not my most excited for a playoff series personally in this first round. Because, I mean, it's going to be a battle.
And also it's like a total momentum thing because I will not say that the Blazers are going to upset the 1 seed Lakers, but the Lakers have not looked great in this bubble, and the Blazers are the complete opposite. They've just been on fire, and especially the depth, even though it's not great, especially with the guards are better, which is probably it's a guard driven league now. Like this is not you're not gonna thrive with JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard
to an extent.
Yeah,
I mean, we still have Giannis and Kawhi. The superstars are still, but those are point forwards as well. Yeah, we'll look at that.
It's just a very I don't know. It's a shooters league, and we have guys like Gary Trent, Dame, CJ, Melo. Then I don't know. Unless they somehow put like AD and LeBron on CJ and Dame, then it'll be a very tough series for the Lakers because
I agree.
KCP sucks. Caruso, even though he's a meme, is not very good.
I mean,
Rondo is past his prime.
He's an effective bench player.
Yeah.
Caruso is an effective bench player.
He's not a starter on a 1 seed team.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I don't know. It's just Anthony Davis is obviously going to have his way. But if CJ McCollum still with that vertebrae injury in his back can step up the way he did today, and Rondo's guarding him, like you said, I think that creates another threat. Because, I mean, for all the talk we've done about Dame, this is a guy who's been dropping 20 per night with an injury that most guys wouldn't even be playing with. So, as we continue through these playoffs, I think while his health definitely needs to be monitored, that's a guy playing with energy and a huge weapon for this team.
Yeah, I mean, I guess since we're on the topic of the Lakers and Blazers, I guess we'll just go into our predictions for the entire playoffs because
That's right.
other than a few moves going on with internally with some non-playoff teams like the Pelicans, the Bulls, and the Kings, we have time to talk about everything. So I guess
We're getting our full NBA preview.
Yeah. So we'll go start with the West because we just saw that Grizzlies and Blazers game. So first round, Lakers versus Blazers. I mean, it's pretty obvious in my opinion, even though the Blazers, in some reality, they could upset them. I'd say Lakers in 6. They'll win a few, but I don't think they have enough. They don't have enough to stop LeBron and Anthony Davis.
I agree. I have the Lakers in 6 as well. I swear I did not copy him, but I mean, this Lakers team is built to be a championship team. You have 2 top 5 superstars. I just can't see them being upset in the first round, even though I would give it a chance, like you said. But I think this could be the tightest series the Lakers have in their bracket outside of maybe the Clippers and maybe even with the Clippers, just because they match up well against the Clippers, I believe. We'll get into that later. So Lakers in 6.
Yeah. So 2 seed versus 7 seed. The other LA team, the Clippers against Luka and the Mavericks. I say Clippers in 6 because, I mean, it shouldn't be a very hard series for the Clippers, but Luka is just playing out of his mind, and I don't think they really have an answer for Porzingis because, I mean, Zubac, even though he does have a similar frame, I think Porzingis is much more dominant, and even though they
are getting Montrez back.
Yeah. But I think Montrez is still a very undersized center. I think he's 6'9", 6'10", and Porzingis 7 feet 7'1" or something.
Yeah.
And even though the Mavs have nowhere near the depth as LA, I think just that Luka factor will get them out of some games they otherwise would definitely not win. So Clippers in 6 or 5, I don't know.
Okay. I have the Clippers in 5. I love the Mavs going into this. I actually picked them to jump up to the 5 seed, believe it or not. But I just haven't liked the way they've been closing games. They've been really struggling to finish off teams. We saw it in the Houston game. We saw it the other night with the Blazers. And so against a team with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, I just don't trust it. And so I'm going to take the Clippers in 5. They win 1.
Yeah. So 3 versus 6, Denver Nuggets against Utah Jazz. Pretty interesting series.
Yup.
And I'll say Nuggets in about 6 because even though I think Donovan Mitchell has been great in the bubble, and Gobert to an extent, but also I've been really impressed with Jokic. And I'm not really high on Michael Porter Jr. like most people, but I don't think he's totally ready, but
yeah,
I think he'll be good enough, and they still have some other pieces on that team. So Nuggets in 6, and even though Gobert and Jokic is a very interesting matchup, I think just the all-around talent of Jokic will prevail over that defensive player of the year or whatever.
Yep. I agree. I also have the Nuggets in 6. I just feel like, we watched that double overtime game again, which was probably the best game of this NBA bubble.
Yeah.
Jokic does have his way a little bit against Gobert, and I feel like in a full series that could definitely be great. Michael Porter Jr., like you said, is really my key to this series. I think with the loss of Boyan Bogdanovic, there's kind of a lack of wings to really guard him, and I think his length and versatility could definitely hurt Utah. And as well as on the wing, they have Torrey Craig and all these shooters, so I think that could definitely be a key for this Denver team. I'm going to take them in 6.
All right. So the bottom, and but I guess the bottom matchup in a sense, the 4 seed Rockets
Yeah.
against the 5 seed Thunder. I think we are in the same boat, and we are not high on the Rockets
No.
because
I want to be.
yeah,
I
I
really
want to
want to
be.
be.
There's no reason to count out James Harden and Westbrook, but I think their newfound small ball philosophy is just really dumb, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because Steven Adams on PJ Tucker will be very interesting. I'm just a big fan of this Thunder team. Very similar to like the Heat in a sense where they're just like underdogs
Mhm.
and like a nice disciplined, well coached team. And they're really like Chris Paul, Shea, Gallinari, and so I'll say Thunder in 7 because I mean, even though I do definitely prefer the Thunder, James Harden just one of the best scorers you've seen in a long time.
Mhm.
So Thunder in 7.
Yeah, I agree with that. I loved this Houston team opening night. I thought they played an amazing game against the Milwaukee Bucks, and then they just haven't looked fantastic to me. And so, I mean, OKC is a team that just really glues together. That three-guard lineup is one of the most dangerous in the NBA. Chris Paul is obviously a huge leader, and I think he's definitely going to be seeking revenge with the rather salty exit that he had from the Houston Rockets. And also the factor that they're going to be missing Russell Westbrook for a couple of
Yeah.
these games. And so I think with all those factors, it's hard to see the Houston Rockets pulling it out. Personally, I think they definitely could, but I'm going to pick the OKC Thunder in 7 games.
Mm-hmm. So on to the East, probably the most boring series out of these.
Definitely.
Debatably, I mean that Raptors-Nets series is definitely going to be bad, but Bucks Magic, even though the Bucks have not looked amazing in the bubble to say the least,
Yeah.
they are infinitely better than this Magic team. As
60
we
wins.
as we've said before, I think Aaron Gordon, one of the most overrated players in basketball.
Mhm.
And I mean, who is going to stop Giannis and Middleton and Lopez
Yeah.
and Bledsoe and Dante? Like there's no answer for this Bucks team on the Magic unless you
Yeah.
want to say like Terrence Ross or
Evan Fournier.
or the revitalized Markel Fultz. But
Oh, God.
yeah, Bucks in 4. There's not much else to say.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Bucks and 4. This Magic team, I thought, would be able to have maybe even take a game if Jonathan Isaac was playing, who I'm super high on with his versatility as a player and his developing 3-point shot. But this Magic team has no shot. This Bucks team is the best, arguably the best in basketball. So I'm gonna take them in 4.
All right, so another very, as I said, very uninteresting series: Raptors versus Nets. No DeAndre Jordan, right, and no Kevin Durant, no Kyrie Irving. So it's.
But they played well.
Yeah, they've been impressive, to say the least. Like the Timothy Luwawu-Cabarrot, Sixers legend, has somehow been able
Crawling
to.
lost.
Yeah, he's been better than he ever was for us. But I don't know, this would be a very boring series because this Raptors team just looked very good, in my opinion. Well, Adam is definitely a lot higher on them than I am, but I don't think that, again, there is no answer for this team. Siakam, Fred VanVleet, Kyle Lowry, and I think that depth is also something that the Nets obviously don't have when they're playing like their bench unit as their starters. So
I agree.
Raptors in 5 because there will be a Timothy Luwawu-Cabarrot career game in this series. I'm calling it right now.
There we go. 30-10. We're calling it.
Or I'll say Karras game. It's a lot more rational.
Okay. Should I use this section for my Raptors rant or should I save it?
You can save it for later, but
Okay.
you can,
I think this is, like you said, Raptors in 5. I like what Brooklyn has done for sure in this bubble. I've been incredibly impressed with Karis LeVert and Jared Allen. I think despite, Kyrie Irving's, attempts to try to trade the both of them. I think they should definitely be able to stick around because they've more than shown that they are capable NBA starters, if not much better than that. But this Toronto team is just so deep. I'm going to save my rant for later, but they're winning in 5 games.
Yeah. Oh, God. So the moment you've been waiting for.
Oh, no.
3-seed Celtics against the 6-seed Sixers.
We need to talk about this one. Can we just skip this one? They know what we're going to say.
It's very unfortunate to say, but in everywhere but, I guess, the bigs, the Celtics are going to kill us.
Yep.
Because,
Agreed.
I mean, unless Joel Embiid turns into that 27-12, like 2 years ago, fully healthy Joel Embiid, they have no shot at all. Because once Ben Simmons was out, I was mentally checked out for the Sixers. Because there's no I can imagine Jaylen Brown or Tatum just absolutely slaughtering our wings, even though I've been impressed with Tobias Harris and Matisse recently, and Josh Richardson has had a few great games, but the inconsistency of Shake Milton terrifies me, considering that he has to guard Kemba Walker.
Kemba Walker, who's an All-NBA first-team player. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's going to be bad. So Celtics in 5.
I mean, here's my thing. The past couple of days, I have, being an optimistic guy, attempted to convince myself that the Sixers have some kind of chance in this series with Joel Embiid 30-10, and somehow they fight their way. But then I remembered 2 years ago, and I remembered that Celtics team was less talented than this one. I remember this Sixers team was substantially more talented, I believe, than this one. And the Celtics won in 5. So I, like that, am going to take the Celtics in 5, and I will now, cry myself to sleep.
Yeah. All right. So as Kenny from King of the Fourth Quarter said, we have Bubble Jesus, T.J. Warren against the Miami Heat. The Heat are one of, even though I will forever have a mild grudge against Jimmy Butler for leaving us, even though he definitely deserves leaving the Sixers. I'm very high on the Heat team, even though I don't think they will get very far because they would have to run into Milwaukee in the second round. But they match up a lot better to Indiana because no Sabonis, so I think Bam will do his thing. Unless you want to say like Goga Badazzi is going to clamp him up. But,
I mean, Goga got dunked on the other day, but Goga kind of has clamps.
Yeah, but this Miami team is very fun. I don't think they will. Again, as I said, I don't think that they will get very far in the playoffs. But this will be a very fun series, obviously with that rivalry between T.J. Warren and Jimmy Butler. But it could definitely go either way. It's all up to if they maintain that momentum, as referring to Indiana. So Heat in 7, but I would not be surprised if Oladipo and Warren and Brogdon and all those guys upset the Miami. Even though they are the higher seed, I would say the Heat are still the favorite. So if they upset Miami.
I was actually very tempted to pick the Pacers in this one. I love what TJ Warren has done as much as he hurt me opening night. But the Heat's fusion of youth and shooting and just, I mean, honestly, throughout this bubble so far, if you had never watched NBA basketball in your life and you watched the Miami Heat, there is a possibility that you say they're the best team in basketball. I mean, with the way they've played. And so I think it's impossible for me to not pick them in the series. Yeah. I think it does go to 7, but I think, Jimmy Butler is the kind of guy who's going to get fired up and ready for a Game 7 like he did for us a year ago, despite us losing that. So Miami in 7 games.
Yeah. So I guess we're just gonna keep on going to the second round, but back to the
Yes.
West. So first seed Lakers against the 5 seed Thunder. We both,
Yep.
I'm pretty sure all of our first round predictions are the
Are
same.
exactly
So,
the same. And that continues.
yeah. So Lakers versus Thunder. Even though I am a big fan of what the Thunder are doing, that there is no answer for. I can't see an answer on that team for LeBron or AD. Even though I think as far as starters go, the Thunder are more well-rounded, but Lakers in 5 for sure.
I actually like Gallinari. I think, he can be a solid defender against AD, but I agree. They have no answer for LeBron. I definitely think this is a LeBron series. That game they played in the bubble, I know it wasn't very close. I think that can be the formula for the Lakers to Thunder to win this series. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander definitely needs to make a huge step up, but I still think it's the Lakers in 5. They're just too talented, and it's easy.
All right, so 2 versus 3 seed Clippers and Nuggets. I
Mhm.
said Clippers in 6, but honestly, looking at it again, I think just that insane depth for the Clippers as well as the firepower in their starting lineup. I'll go back to say Clippers in 5 because Michael Porter Jr., Will Barton, whoever's on Kawhi, I don't think they have the discipline to contain him, and they don't really have an answer for say Paul George or I get, and I'm not gonna say uh, Montrez because they have Jokic, but
Yeah.
I think this series would be over a lot earlier than some people think. So Clippers in 5.
I agree with you. I had Clippers in 5. I just feel like, again, like you said, the depth of the Clippers, but also the star power of the Clippers. Michael Porter Jr., as much as I love what he brings on the offensive side, has not been good defensively. So this could definitely be a Kawhi Leonard series. And, you know, this is a young Nuggets team. I didn't like them going into last year's playoffs. I don't love them going into this year's. I still think they're one piece away from being a true, contender with these Lakers and these Clippers, a Bradley Beal, say. So I'm going to take the Clippers in 5 as well.
Right. So gonna head out east, right?
Yep.
So into the second round. So Bucks versus Heat. Even though again, this is a similar situation to like the first round with the Lakers and Blazers. So like total momentum
Yeah.
difference. But I say Bucks in 6. I say
Okay.
yeah, I say 6 or 7 because although playoff Giannis has never looked good, especially last year, like in that Raptors series. I
Mhm.
think he'll definitely take a stride. Even though they don't have those contributors like last year, like Brogdon, they still have a lot of good pieces. Like Middleton look great.
Mhm.
Bledsoe's look great. DiVincenzo, after he dropped Kemba Walker, he gained a lot of my respect.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bucks in 6, and then they're heading to the Eastern Conference Finals to hopefully not choke again.
We will see about that. But I have the Bucks in 6 as well. I just feel like I love Miami. If anybody's gonna, contain Giannis, I think Miami definitely has the bigs to do it with Bam Adebayo and the the
Myers
height they
Leonard.
have. Well, okay, okay.
Oh no, I'm kidding.
But I
They'll
think,
do a good enough job.
yeah, they'll do a good enough job. I still think this Milwaukee team is one of, if not the deepest team in basketball, and it's just going to be too much. Milwaukee in 6.
Yeah. Okay, so in a very interesting series, even though I say the next series in the West is probably going to be my favorite, but
I think this is the best one.
Raptors Celtics, a very very close series in my opinion because I think the Celtics are a little more well-rounded in their starting lineup because I mean they do have Kemba. Kemba and Lowry match up pretty well. I think Jaylen Brown might be a problem for Van Vliet. Tatum and Siakam would be interesting for sure.
Yo,
But I think again, similar to what we talked about with the first round, where the Celtics praise falls is in the big men because
exactly. Daniel
yeah,
Tice.
Daniel Tyson and Enes Kanter are two undersized bigs, and they can't do that against Chris Boucher and Marcus Gasol.
Serge Ibaka.
Yeah, so Raptors in 7 will definitely be really really close, but I have a rematch in the Eastern Conference Finals again.
Yep. I agree with you with Toronto and 7. Should I do the rant now?
You can save it for even farther if that's
Save it even
spoiled.
farther. Yeah, okay. Um, I'm gonna say them in 7 just because I feel like you said, Boston's lack of bigs is kind of worrying. And also, I mean, I talked about Milwaukee being the deepest team. I'm gonna take that back and say Toronto because this is a team that goes 9 deep. Honestly, you can even say Matt Thomas is a
Whoa.
viable weapon
Yeah,
for
Matt
this
Thomas
Raptors
was in a face jam in 2K.
they're just great. They're greatly coached. Nick Nurse, I think, is one of, if not the best coach in the NBA. And
Yeah.
you know, I think Boston, you know, has the talent, but it hasn't always shown in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take Toronto in 7 for sure.
Yeah. So we have identical Eastern Conference Finals, 1 versus 2, the Battle of LA, and then the rematch from last year, Milwaukee against Toronto. So we'll go
Yep.
with the West first. I think as much as I want the Clippers to win because they've always been the team that says, oh, they never do anything. They're always like second fiddle to the Lakers. I will say Lakers in 7 because even though on paper the Clippers are a lot better, I think playoff LeBron is just completely unstoppable. And even though AD has never really proven himself outside of that Portland series a few years ago, I think just that dynamic duo outshines that. Even though I love the Clippers so much, I love their depth, which is something the Lakers absolutely do not have. Their coaching is
Yeah.
better. Even though I think Frank Vogel is a good coach. But
Yep.
Lakers in 7, even though it will be probably my favorite and or the closest series in the playoffs.
I think we talked about it the first time we had this podcast, our first bubble podcast where we talked about Lakers Clippers. That first game, Montrezl Harrell was out, Louis Williams was out, and this Clippers team still managed to take LeBron James and Anthony Davis, both playing in full performance, to a 2-point game. This is a team with Kawhi Leonard, who we want to talk about prime playoff performances.
Yeah.
Last season in Toronto just had a historic run
Yeah.
that has to be mentioned as one of the best playoff performances in the history of the National Basketball Association.
Mm-hmm.
And so that being said, I am going to take the Los Angeles Clippers in 7, just because as a guy who looks at these two teams on paper and watching them, I think the momentum, while not with either team, has definitely more been with the Clippers this bubble. And I mean, like you said, they're just deeper. They really are. And I think the addition, having Montrezl Harrell and Lou Williams for this game, can definitely push them over the top.
Yeah.
Los Angeles Clippers are going to the NBA Finals in 7 games.
All right. So going out east, this is when our disagreements finally come up. So,
Exactly.
Bucks versus Raptors. I'm an unapologetic Giannis fan. I will admit that, but
Yeah.
I say the Bucks match up pretty evenly with the Raptors, especially in the front court, like Gasol and Ibaka versus I say Brook Lopez and Giannis and Robin.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but yeah, and I think the wings are also a very interesting matchup, like Middleton against Siakam and Anunoby and Davis, and then like DiVincenzo. I think that would be really fun. And off the bench, you got like George Hill and like Wes Matthews, and I think even though I'm not as informed of the Raptors as you. I think this will finally be the year that Giannis gets pushes further than just losing to the Raptors in the Eastern Conference Finals for the second year. So I'll say Bucks in 7, but I would not be surprised if Toronto goes to the NBA Finals yet again.
All right, I think it's time.
Yeah, I think you can say your rant now.
I'd like to start by saying that I doubted the Toronto Raptors. I really did. Just for this podcast, I brought back out my Eastern Conference rankings from the beginning of this season. Okay? We have 1 Milwaukee. We have 2 the Sixers. Number 3, we have Boston. Number 4, we have the Nets.
Wow.
Number 5, we have the Heat. Number 6, we have the Toronto Raptors. I disrespected them just as much, and I would like to apologize. Because this Toronto Raptors team is more than finals worthy. This is what I'm going to call the deepest team in basketball right now. They have the most answers for Giannis. They have Marc Gasol. They have Serge Ibaka. They have Kyle Lowry, who has proved that he can be a legitimate playoff weapon based on the run last year. You have Pascal Siakam, who has transformed into a transcendent superstar in a way that, Jason Tatum has, but just taken it to a different level with his shooting. And Nick Nurse, who I am going to say is the best coach in basketball. This team has no reason to be disrespected. They, despite not having, you could say, as much superstar potential as this Milwaukee Bucks team, match up fantastic against them. And I can't see why there would be any different result than last year. Raptors in 7.
All right, so we have the inverse finals matchups. I have the Lakers against the Bucks, and you have the Clippers against the Raptors. And I think I had a much more cynical take on this earlier, but I still have the Lakers over the Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
I will not say it is rigged. I won't say it's rigged, but there will be a push for the Lakers, especially just internally, for the Lakers to win this championship, because this team has not been good in about a decade. So
yeah.
So I think it's a great resurgence for this organization, even though they have been good for so long. Even though, obviously, as I just said, they have been a very mediocre franchise for a little bit with those.
Well, dang.
Yeah, those Timofey Mozgov and
Yeah.
They did have Brook Lopez, who is they're facing in the series.
They did.
Who they traded for D'Angelo Russell, if you don't remember that. But,
and that worked out fantastic.
Yeah. So, as much as I love Giannis, and I really hope he gets a ring so he can stay in Milwaukee and not go to the Warriors and everybody loses respect for him, but I will say Lakers in 6 because, again, playoff LeBron, absolutely different breed. Anthony Davis is a top 5 player. We have 3 top 5 players in the league in this finals, and assuming that Giannis is on LeBron, I don't really think that there will be an answer for Anthony Davis. So I think just that distraction of LeBron being a top 3 MVP candidate will. I can't see, even though Brook Lopez is an all-defensive player for me. I don't have him or Middleton really locking AD down. So Lakers in 6, championship number 18, I think, for the Lakers.
It's a ridiculous number.
That would be number. Wait, let me just. Yeah, that would be number 17. I'm sorry.
Wow, I wouldn't have been that close. That's crazy. But I'm gonna take the Clippers in 6 games. I just feel like, as much as I love that Toronto Raptors team and the way in which they're built, Kawhi Leonard and his playoff performances just can't be doubted. I think this is Paul George's year to really step up. I know he had that back and forth with him and Damian Lillard. I think this really is his chance to prove it. and they're just, I mean, they go as deep as the Raptors, and they have those true superstars. So I'm going to take the Los Angeles Clippers to now own LA and win in 6 games. That's right.
Yeah, I can see that happening, but as I said,
Yep.
Lakers in 6. So that's it for our predictions. We have some other current news, even though I don't think we have any Bulls, Pelicans, or Kings fans on the podcast. But Jim Boylen, you're gone finally.
Yep.
And
Alvin Gentry.
Yeah, Alvin Gentry fired. And Vlade Divac fired from, no, he stepped down, which is a nice way of saying he's fired.
Yeah.
From the Kings as like GM, I think, president. Yep. But this turns into like a broader conversation because
it does.
If the Sixers don't get very far, is there going to be good enough options to replace him? Like, I think I can see Atkinson going to Chicago.
I think he does go to Chicago because he's the obvious favorite.
Yeah. But I know they said one of our assistants is one of the main front runners, which is weird. But I mean, if you'll take him, you might as well, so we can have if we can get Kenny Atkinson, I'd much prefer that. But I think
I'm gonna push for Mark Jackson.
Yeah. But the culture that he built in Brooklyn was great until Kyrie decided to pull a diva like Odell Beckham sort of thing. But
yeah. No, I think he's perfect. I think Kenny Atkinson is perfect for that Chicago team. I agree. Yeah. That was a young Brooklyn team. I think the way once they'd gotten KD and Kyrie, Kenny Atkinson really didn't fit because they were shifted into contending mode. But for a rebuilding team like Chicago, that's definitely a huge advantage for them. But like I said earlier, I'm going to push for Mark Jackson for the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah.
I think he's an incredibly talented coach. I think he should have been back in the league a long time ago. There's just so much experience that can be learned. He played with Steph Curry, So I think that could be the thing the Sixers need to put this team over the top, honestly.
Yeah, they just need a coach who can handle a team. That's literally all you have to do.
I think Brett can handle a team.
Yeah.
I think really the problem
he needs to lead and make sure that the players also are A, stay disciplined, and B, lead the way, because as Jimmy Butler said on the JJ Redick podcast, he didn't know what was going on.
Exactly.
So, yeah, this team needs an identity. Even though they do have somewhat of an identity, they don't have, especially with Joel and Ben Simmons, they do not have discipline.
We need someone to force our 2 stars to step up. That's what we're saying. And so I think a guy like Kenny Atkinson or Mark Jackson or a Jason Kidd, who's an old school coach, can thrust this team and thrust these guys into, a winning atmosphere and a winning mode is definitely something that this team needs for sure.
Yeah. And as I've said many times before, Brett Brown is not a coach for a playoff team. Or a team that was supposed to compete, because he came in here to coach Tony Roten and Henry Sims and Hollis Thompson and who else?
Joel
Okafor and
Nerlens
and
CJ
and Marco Bellinelli and
Vucevic.
If that says enough, all right, my final word for here before Adam says our outro or whatever. I don't know what he's gonna say, but fire Brett Brown and let's hope to God the Flyers will win, because we're gonna talk hockey very soon.
Yeah. My final words will be check out Hungry Dog Sports Wall.
Yeah. We haven't put anything on there in like 2 weeks.
But still do. Thank you guys for listening. We will be back.
All right.